ओके, मेवा शायद नहीं आएगी, उसका नेटवर्क का इशू है शायद, पता नहीं। ओके, लेट मी स्टार्ट द क्लास। देखा जाएगा बाद में कोई आएगा तो। ओके, आज स्क्रीन तो दिख रहा होगा ऑब्वियसली। ओके, आज कुछ चीज़ें देखेंगे हम लोग। कुछ ज़्यादा ही चीज़ें हैं, बट आई विल ट्राई टू कंप्लीट एज अर्ली एज पॉसिबल। ओके, सो पहला टॉपिक जो है वो है लिनक्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। ओके, सो लिनक्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मीन्स बाय सिंपल टर्म अगर हम लोग समझते हैं कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन क्या होता है, किसी को कुछ चीज़ें बांटना। इफ़ वी शेयर समथिंग, इफ़ वी डिस्ट्रीब्यूट समथिंग टू अदर्स, तुम्हारे कुछ चीज़ें तुम अपने पेन्स, if you have multiple number of pens and you want to give it to the others, those who need it, तो तुम क्या करते हो, वो दे देते हो, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर देते हो। सो दिस इज कॉल्ड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, एंड द सेम थिंग एंड द सेम मीनिंग ऑल्सो गोज इन टू द टॉपिक लाइनक्स। लाइनक्स में भी सेम चीजें होता है। लाइनक्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का मतलब होता है, देखो यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है। सो फर्स्ट हम लोग देखेंगे कि व्हाट इज, फर्स्ट वी विल सी कि what is the meaning of Linux distribution. Okay, so next the thing that we will be seeing ki what are the list of Linux distributions. Okay, so distribution means if you are dividing your own thing to others. Just say I am sharing my knowledge to you guys, okay, to you students. Okay, so this is also one kind of distribution. I'm distributing my knowledge to you, so this is called as distribution. अभी Linux distribution होता क्या है, what is that Linux distribution? Okay, so before going into the exact definition, you have to understand like here this thing, other operating systems. Okay, so Linux is a basically an operating system like Windows 7, Mac OS. These are the operating system. Okay, so other operating systems like Microsoft means Windows 7, Windows 10. These operating system, what they do, combine each bit of codes internally and release it as a single package. You have to choose from one of the version they offer. Means what is happening in here is that कि बाकी जितने भी operating system होते हैं other than Linux, whatever the operating system we have, okay, they will have a one particular organization, okay, so which will contain, like they will contain every they will develop their own software, okay, they will build their own hardware, okay, so everything they will build. For example, Microsoft Windows if we take, ओके, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट विंडोज क्या करता है, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट विंडोज का ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम क्या होता है, विंडोज 7 होता है। ओके, सो वो विंडोज 7 जब बनाते हैं वो अपने ही कंपनीज में बनाते हैं, दे विल मेक देयर ओन ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम विद इन दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, दे ओन डिस्ट्रीब्यूट इट, दे ओन डिस्ट्रीब्यूट देयर प्रोडक्ट कि तुम मेरा वाला कुछ बना दो। ओके, सो लेट मी जस्ट गिव यू एन एग्जांपल। ओके, सो if you want to build an operating system, you have to have like, you need to know kernel, you have to have an in order to build an operating system you have to have a kernel, you have to have a server, and you have to have a GUI, graphical user interface. Okay, and these are the things that I have already discussed. So these are the three basic things that you need to develop first in order to build an operating system. And what Microsoft Windows does is that it build all those things together in their own company. They don't distribute to the others. Okay, so this is what Microsoft Windows does. Okay, but in case of Linux operating system, what they did is that different parts of Linux are developed by different organization. Okay, so what are the parts that I have discussed? Like, in order to build an operating system, you need to first develop a kernel, you need to first develop a server, you need to first develop a uh, graphical user interface. Okay, so what Linux operating system does, that they will give it to the other organization to develop it. वो क्या करते हैं, किसी और कंपनी को दे देंगे कि तुम बिल्ड करो, ये वाला पार्ट तुम बिल्ड करो, वो वाला पार्ट तुम बिल्ड करो, ये वाला वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर देते हैं. Say they will distribute all the parts to other organizations, and when the other organization will develop this, they will send back to the main organizations. Okay, so this is what Linux distribution means. So in order to build an operating system, what they did is that, what they does or did was that they will distribute their parts to other organization, and those other organization will build their parts and then revert back to the main organization. I will again repeat it in Hindi. क्या होता है देखो, लाइनक्स डेवलप करने के लिए हम लोगों को वी नीड थ्री चीजें, थ्री पार्ट्स वी नीड. क्या क्या चाहिए हम लोगों को? कर्नेल, यहाँ पे लिखा भी हुआ है, तो कर्नेल, सर्वर, सिस्टम एनवायरनमेंट ग्राफ, ये सब चीजें चाहिए हम लोगों को बनाने के लिए एक ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम. तो वो क्या करता है, लाइनक्स क्या करता है, ये सब खुद नहीं बनाएगा. वो लाइनक्स क्या करेगा, वो सब कार्नेल किसी और को बनाने के लिए दे देगा, सर्वर किसी और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को बना के. सो डिफरेंट पार्ट्स को वो डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को दे देता है, एंड डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वो सब बना के वापस लाइनक्स को दे देता है, और लाइनक्स सारे चीजों को मिला के एक ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बनाता है. दिस इज व्हाट Linux distribution means. Linux distribution means what? Different parts of Linux will be distributed to the different organizations in order to build an operating system. But in case of Microsoft operating system like Windows 7, they do not give their different part to the different organization. They make their own operating system with their own employee. Did you understand? समझ में आया यहाँ तक, Arnav?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did I say, Arnav? Can you please summarize? What?
So to develop a operating system,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have a kernel,
Okay.
then GUI,
Graphical user interface. Yes. Okay.
and
We need to have a server. Okay.
yes, sir.
So then, what does Linux distribution means? Okay. Linux distribution means, okay, clear नहीं Arnav. Okay, anyone, or कौन है? Saranga, can you please explain? Or Roshan, anyone? What does Linux distribution means? Meva? No one. Okay, again I'm repeating. मैं फिर से बता रहा हूँ कि देखो ध्यान से सुनना, Linux distribution क्या होता है. So in order to build an operating system, we have to first build some parts. Okay, and what are those parts? Kernel, shell, utilities, servers. So for easy way to remember, I just said three things: kernel, server, and GUI. You need to have these parts first built. Okay, so in order to build an operating system, you need to first develop these three things. Okay, and what does Linux do is that in order to build these three things, they do not build by themselves. They will distribute these three things to other organization. Okay, इसका एक अच्छा example let me give you, like Samsung or Apple. Okay, they do not make their own hardware. Manufactured, you can see that it is manufactured in China, but it is developed. A mobile phone is usually manufactured in China. Means what? Their parts is made up from China, but whatever the software they will be using, whatever the build quality they will be using, it will be made in USA or India. Okay, so different parts are developing in the different organization. So this is what distribution means. So in here, distribution means like different parts of Linux in a single language, different sentence. Different parts of Linux are developed by different organization, and different parts means kernel, server, GUI, shell utilities. These are the different parts which will be developed by different organization, not by Linux. Okay, so this is what Linux distribution means. When all the parts will be developed by different organizations, okay, in order to build a Linux operating system. This is what we known as Linux distribution. अभी रिपीट कर सकते हो मैंने क्या बोला, अभी समझ में आया अर्नब? अर्नब समझ में आया अभी?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, ओके, कैन यू प्लीज
Sure,
रिपीट?
sir.
या कैन यू प्लीज रिपीट, देन आई विल मूव टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक.
सर
अच्छे से नहीं आया?
अच्छे से नहीं है.
ओके अर्नब, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. एनीवन मेवा, रोशन मेवा, सुनिया, यस.
So in order to build an operating system, first we need to develop three things:
ओके.
kernel,
ओके.
server, and GUI.
ओके.
Linux does not develop their parts
इन देयर ओन कंपनी.
own
यस.
in their own company. They distribute to other organizations, develop the parts.
Yes. This is what we known as Linux distribution. They distribute their parts to develop in the other organization. Okay. And now let me just I think you don't have understand this, so I'll repeat again. Okay. So the topic is Linux distribution. Sonia, very good. You have understood everything. Okay, don't worry. So okay. लाइनक्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मीन्स व्हाट कि लाइनक्स का काम ही क्या होता है, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बिल्ड करना. सो लाइनक्स इज एन कंपनी वेयर लाइनक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम हैज बीन मेड टिल नाउ. ओके, सो लाइनक्स कंपनी का नाम ही याद रखना अर्नब, जहाँ पे वो लोग क्या करते हैं, बस ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम ही बिल्ड करते हैं. ठीक है, जैसे सैमसंग क्या करता है, सो दे विल मेक टीवी, दे विल मेक मोबाइल फोन्स, and whatever the parts they will make headphone also. So सैमसंग का काम होता है सारे चीज़ों को बनाना. ओके, सो जैसे कि सेम गोज विथ लाइनक्स ऑल्सो. सो दे विल डेवलप ओनली ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम. सो लाइनक्स इज ए कंपनी बेस. ओके, सो लाइनक्स इज ए कंपनी का नाम होता है लाइनक्स, याद रखना. एंड व्हेन दे विल मेक ए ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम, okay, so in order to build an operating system, first they need to develop certain things, certain parts. ओके, जैसे मोबाइल फोन को अगर बनाना हो तुमको, तो मोबाइल फोन तुम ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम समझ लो. यू कंसिडर मोबाइल फोन एज एन ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम. So in order to build a mobile phone, you have to need some parts, some keyboard. Okay, so these are the things that first you need to develop. Okay, so like to develop in Linux operating system, you have to build first these three things: kernel, server, system, graphical user interface. Okay, so in order to build an operating system, first you need to develop these three things. And these three things कहाँ पे डेवलप होता है, वो लिनक्स कंपनी पे डेवलप नहीं होता है, वो दूसरे कंपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हायर करता है. लिनक्स विल हायर डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन टू बिल्ड दिस थ्री थिंग्स. Okay, so Linux will hire different organization to build their parts. Okay, so this is what Linux distribution means. In order to build their own operating system, they distribute their parts to other organization for building. This is what Linux distribution means. अभी समझ में आया अर्नब?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, बोल दो.
सर लाइनक्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ये है जो लाइनस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन वो है जो जो पार्ट्स बनाता है दूसरे तो
अभी तक क्लियर नहीं हुआ था।
कंफ्यूज हो गया हूँ।
अच्छा, मैं हिंदी में कर दूं एक्सप्लेन तुम्हारे लिए। अच्छा, अब मुझे समझ में भी नहीं आया था, बाकी तो लोगों को समझ में आया कि नहीं। दैट सॉन्ग रोशन इज आल्सो देयर। वेट, रोशन समझ में आया? रोशन? Okay, Meva, Roshan, that song. You can type in the chat also if you don't want to unmute yourself. You can type in the chat also. Do you have understood or not? So, okay, let's just leave it. Okay, so अर्नब, मैं फिर से एक्सप्लेन कर रहा हूँ। लाइनक्स एक कंपनी होता है जहाँ पे ऑपरेटिंग, सो यू हैव अंडरस्टूड। ओके, सो मेवा हैज अंडरस्टूड। लाइनक्स इज एन ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम। लाइनक्स इज अ कंपनी वेयर ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम हैज बीन बिल्ड। लाइनक्स में हम लोग ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को बनाते हैं। लाइनक्स एक कंपनी है जहाँ पे लाइनक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बनता है। ठीक है, तो लाइनक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बनता है तो लाइनक्स क्या करता है, खुद ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बनाने के लिए हम लोग को कुछ पार्ट्स चाहिए। क्या क्या पार्ट्स चाहिए? कर्नेल, सर्वर, ग्राफिकल यूजर इंटरफेस। दीज आर द पार्ट्स वी नीड इन ऑर्डर टू बिल्ड एन ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम। ठीक है, तो लाइनक्स क्या करता है, वो पार्ट्स को वो खुद नहीं बनाता है। उस पार्ट्स को, कौन से पार्ट्स? कर्नेल, शेल्स, दीज आर द पार्ट्स। वो पार्ट्स को खुद नहीं बनाएगा, वो क्या करेगा, डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जैसे लाइनक्स जैसा दूसरे कंपनी वो हायर करेगा। जैसे माइक्रोसॉफ्ट भी हो सकता है, यूनिक्स भी हो सकता है, एप्पल भी हो सकता है। वो दूसरे कंपनी को हायर करके ये पार्ट्स को डेवलप करवाएगा पैसा देके। ठीक है, he will pay for this he means linux will pay for these parts, and once they developed by other organization, जब ये लोग other organization ये parts बना लेंगे, बनाने के बाद लाइनक्स को फिर से रिटर्न कर देंगे। फिर लाइनक्स क्या करेगी, इन पार्ट्स को, सारे पार्ट्स को ज्वाइन करके लाइनक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम डेवलप हो जाएगा। अभी अर्णव समझ में आया?
हाँ सर।
हाँ बोलो, आई वांट टू हियर।
सर लाइनक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को बनाने के लिए जो पार्ट्स चाहिए, कर्नेल,
यस यस।
सर्वर और जो जीयूआई चाहिए, वो पहले कंपनियां डेवलप करते हैं।
मीन्स पहले मीन्स
हाँ
दूसरा कंपनी। हाँ।
हाँ, वो दूसरा कंपनी लिनक्स उनको हायर करते हैं
यस यस
ताकि वो इन सब पार्ट्स को बना सकते हैं।
यस यस।
और फिर
वापिस
उन पार्ट्स को वापस लिनक्स
once these parts,
रीअसेंबल कर।
yes, once these parts will be developed by other organizations, those other organization will return the parts to the linux, and linux will then assemble them and will make a operating system which will be known as linux operating system. This is what linux distribution means. When a linux company will distribute its parts to other organizations for building. Okay, this is what linux distribution means. Okay, समझ में आया क्या? Okay, we'll move into the next topic, that is so you have, these are the simple things. Linux distribution list. So this is means there are actually 600 linux distributors there. So distributors means, अभी मैंने अभी तक बात क्या किया कि these parts will be developed by other organization. Whose organization? Who are those organization that linux will be distributing this? Okay, so these are the name of those organizations that will collect those parts to build an operating system for linux. So linux distribution, I have only used two operating system, two organization. Okay, so there are on an average 600 linux distributors. There are on an average of 600 linux distributor providing different features. Okay, so here we'll discuss some of the popular linux distros. Linux distribution को हम लोग linux distros भी बोलते हैं. So we call linux distribution as a shortcut what? Linux distros. Okay, so first one is one of the most popular distribution is Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu is also an company based name, and it is also an operating system. Okay, so remember that it came into an existence of 2004, and It is the most well-known Linux distribution. So you don't need to remember all of those things. Okay, so you just have to remember that it will become like a MCQs. What are the like there will be 4 options. Okay, so the question will be like what are the Linux distributions. So there will be questions, Ubuntu will be there, other operating systems will be there, so you have to just tick the right questions. So in case you want to go through all those stuff, you can read it. It's not like anything that I need to explain. It just written like it came into existence in 2004 and quickly became popular. So these are the definition. Okay, I am not going to explain. And another one is Linux Mint. Okay, so this is one more company which will develop the parts of like kernel shells. Okay, so these are the distribution list for Linux. I'm not going to discuss all those things. These are just definitions, you can go through it. Okay, so Linux distribution you have understood, and these are the company that will develop the parts for Linux, and these are also an operating system under Linux. Okay, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, these are also an operating system, and these are also an company. Okay, so Ubuntu is a company which will make Ubuntu operating system. Linux Mint is a company which will make Mint operating system as well as the parts for kernel. So Ubuntu is also an operating system which will make the parts for the Linux operating system. So these are the sub companies of Linux. Okay, so these are the 2 that you have to remember. Now the main thing comes. Okay, so ownership of Linux files. Ownership of Linux files means whenever Linux, under the Linux, Mac OS also is there. I have told you what are the types of Linux or Unix. You have said Linux operating system, then Mac operating system. These are the 2 types that comes under Unix operating system. So Linux is one type. Okay, so Linux operating system is also same as Mac operating system. So ये जो whatever the files you will be seeing. Okay, so these are the files that you are seeing right now. Like these are the files that I'm clicking. So these have ownership. Okay, these have ownership means I own those files. Okay, if I don't want to open this file, if I don't want to edit those files, अगर मैं चाहता हूँ ये फाइल तुम edit ना कर सको, ये फाइल तुम delete ना कर सको, so I can set the permission to each and every file. ओके, आई जस्ट मैं ऐसे भी परमिशन दे सकता हूँ जैसे ये बस तुम देख सकते हो, यू कैन जस्ट बी विट, यू डोंट have any access to like edit, delete. Okay, I can set those permission also. So these are known as ownership. So ये सब तुम्हारे Microsoft, these are not there in the Microsoft Windows. You cannot set ownership to a file. Okay, ownership means you own those files. Okay, and only you can decide whether who will see it, who can edit it, and who can delete it. You can set those permissions. So these are the biggest advantage of a Linux operating system. So yeah, आज मैं इतना ज़्यादा नहीं कराऊंगा. I'll be like teaching only this thing, and permission will be discussed in the next class. Okay, so ownership of files may you can have some distribution. Like first one is user. A user is the owner of the file. User means me, myself, Basab. So I am the user of my files. Okay, a user is the owner of the file. By default, the person who created a file became its owner. By default, the person who created a file. Okay, just for example, this document one, this one I have created this morning. So I will be the user of those files. So this is what a user means. Whoever created a file will be the user of the or the owner of the file. Okay, owner means user. Okay, and he will be the he will be the like king of those files. He can set the permission. So a user is the owner of the file. Okay, remember that. And group. This should be like user group. Okay, so user group means a group of user will contain, a user group contain multiple users. Means what? You have like 6, I have 6 participant here. Okay, तो मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, यूजर ग्रुप में क्या कर सकता हूँ, उस फाइल का परमिशन मैं तुम सबको भी दे सकता हूँ. Okay, it's like WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group, you have Arnav has created a WhatsApp group where we will be discussing about the subject only, our subject only. No one else will gonna see it, our notes, only you people will see it. So this is a user group. Means I'll set a user, a particular user will set some groups where only those users will be, can see the document, can edit the document, can delete the document. ठीक है, एक सेट ऑफ यूजर मैं सेट करूंगा. यूजर ग्रुप में क्या होता है, मैं एक यूजर, एक पार्टिकुलर यूजर, जैसे मैं सेट करूंगा कि कौन से मेरे यूजर्स, जैसे मैं अर्णव को ले लूंगा, देत्संग को ले लिया, मैं मेवा को ले लिया, और मैं बोलूंगा कि ये तीनों ही बस क्या कर सकेंगे, मेरे फाइल को देख सकेंगे, मेरे फाइल को डिलीट कर सकेंगे, इन तीनों के पास ही मेरे अलावा एक्सेस होगा. इट्स लाइक घर का चाबी. तुमने घर का चाबी तुम्हारे पास होता है, तुम यूजर हो, तुम ओनर हो, तो तुम्हारे पास चाबी है, और बाकी तुम चाहते हो कि मेरे घर का चाबी और किसी के पास हो, तो तुम डिसाइड करोगे कौन कौन के पास तुम्हारे चाबी हो. ठीक है, सो दिस इज यूजर ग्रुप. a user will uh, a user will contain, or a user will क्या बोलूँ उसको मैं, give permission to multiple, a user can give permission to multiple users and who can view his document or edit his document or delete it document. तो यूजर होता है ओनर ऑफ द फाइल, और यूजर ग्रुप होता है मल्टीपल यूजर्स. ठीक है, और लास्ट होता है any other user who has access to a file. Other होता है, these are the, like other is nothing but ये फाइल है. ठीक है, ये फाइल है, I have shared these files, जैसे कि for now, for just for example, this the file, this will be the file which will be, I'll be sharing to an WhatsApp group, and everyone can edit, everyone can view, and everyone can see this, or everyone can modify these files. This is what an other means. So there are 3 types of file permissions are there. There are file permission, you don't say, these are 3 ownership of files are there. And user, only the user can view, edit or delete the file, or the owner of the file. Okay, and user nothing but the owner of the file, who will be deleting, who will be editing, who can only delete, only edit and only view his file. Nobody else can see, view or edit those files. Okay, this is what a user means. Okay, and user group means a owner will set up some group. Okay, and those group will be like, if it is a 5, if this group contains 5 number of people, only 5 number of people can see, view, can view, edit or delete these files. Okay, this is what an user group means. And other means everyone can view, edit or delete those files. Okay, so you can set a particular permission to a file. ठीक है, तुम अपने एक फाइल को परमिशन दे सकते हो. जैसे तुमने एक डॉक फाइल क्रिएट किया है, उसी फाइल पे कौन तुम्हारा फाइल को देख सकता है, कौन फाइल को नहीं देख सकता है, ये तुम लाइनक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम में कर सकते हो, जो तुम विंडोज ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम पे नहीं कर सकते. ओके, आई थिंक, और एंड दिस इज द टॉपिक नेम, दिस इज व्हाट वी नो, ओनरशिप ऑफ लिनक्स फाइल्स. कौन कौन सा फाइल ओन करता है, दिस इज व्हाट वी नोन एज ओनरशिप ऑफ फाइल. हु is going to own this file. Okay, so अर्णव और सुनिया और कोई भी, अर्णव बोल दो क्योंकि तुम ही तो बोलते हो. अर्णव, did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you please summarize this? क्या क्या बोला मैंने?
Yes, sir. Sir, user वो होते हैं जो
so first we have
files.
first we have to like you have to define the topic. Say ownership of the Linux files, right?
Yes, sir. Ownership of Linux files
means who will own those files. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, like
yes,
then ownership में we have 3 categories. One is user, user group and other. User में क्या होता है?
Sir, user may only user can access to the files in the operating system. Other than no one can access the files.
Access the files. Yes, only user can only user can see, edit or delete the files. No one else can edit or delete those files. No one else will have the permission to do this in user. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Then we have user group. So in user group,
So in user group, only the assigned people,
yes,
only the user can assign the people
mm, only
who can edit, delete or
view the file.
delete the files.
Yes, very
View
good,
the
very
file.
good, very good. A user will assign some particular people or some particular students, and who only can view or delete those files. Okay, so this is why it is known as user group. And user will assign certain group of people who will have the access to those files. Okay, and जब भी मैं बोलूँगा who will have access to those files, remember this, access means edit, view and delete. These are the three things access means. So whenever I will be saying like a group will have the access to those files, this means this group can edit, view or delete those files. Okay, and other means
All the people can access, view or edit the file.
yes, all the people, all the user can access those files. Like for example मैं दे सकता हूँ तुमको. So uh, whenever I'm uploading something in Google Classroom, okay, if someone else has the code of my Google Classroom, okay, he can download my document. Okay, and then after downloading the document he can also edit those files if he want, right? डॉक फाइल अगर मैं सेंड करता हूँ, कोई भी एडिट कर सकता है. तुम एडिट कर सकते हो ना? So this is what in the other group section we means. In other group section, if I in other means everybody else can edit, view or delete the files. Okay, so these are the three ownership that you have to remember, and these are actually user will be containing. This will be if explain the ownership of the Linux files, so it will be of 6 marks that you have to write. What does user means, what that user group means and what other means. Okay, आज यहाँ तक ही रहने देते हैं. So just Arnav has understood everything. Saranga, you are new. Can you please unmute yourself, Saranga?
Sir.
Okay, did you understand?
Sir, yes.
Okay, ownership of Linux फाइल को एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हो? जस्ट बस यूजर ग्रुप को एक्सप्लेन कर दो, क्या था ये?
सर यूजर ग्रुप वो होता है जिसमें ये यूजर या ओनर मेक ए ग्रुप
Yes,
मेक ए ग्रुप एंड
those group only
ग्रुप
will
बनता
only
है
be
able to view and edit
or
or delete
delete.
the file.
Yes, very good, Saranga, very good, very good, very good. Next, Roshan. रोशन का तो ऑडियो था. रोशन, कैन यू प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ? इतना डरते क्यों? आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू आस्क एनीथिंग. whatever I am teaching I will be asking this only. म्यूट करके कहीं पे खाने पे चला गया पक्का. Okay, Sunia, please can you unmute yourself?
Sir?
Yes, Sunia, did you understand the ownership of Linux files?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me the summary, like one line? What does user means? What does user group means?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The user is the owner of the file.
Mm-hmm.
Only the user can see or edit the files.
Yes. And what does user
Uh,
group means?
the user group means the user can create a group,
Yes.
and
Group will
those
be
group means the
uh,
multiple users.
okay. And Nana, what the user will create some groups, and those groups will be able to see, view, edit, or delete the files. That's it, na?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. Meva, please can you type in your chat? Did you understand or should I repeat? Okay. So never. Okay, you have understood. Okay, so देखो, I'm again, today's class we have seen Linux distribution. Okay, so you have to remember that, you have to remember these parts. So I can ask you in the questions like, in order to build an operating system, what are the parts that are built in the other organizations? So you can say this kernel, shell, these are the things that you have to memorize. यहाँ पे मैं कुछ समझा नहीं सकता, बट मैंने समझाया था कार्नेल क्या होता है, शेल क्या होता है, सो ग्राफिकल प्रोग्राम क्या होता है, ये सब मैंने समझाया था तुम लोगों को, तो ये तुम बता सकते हो. और other than that, just memorize these things. Okay, this won't harm you anything. Okay, so in exam the question can come like this: ki what are the parts that needs to be used in order to build a Linux operating system? So you can write these are the parts. Okay, and these are the things I have already discussed, कि Linux distribution list क्या क्या होता है, Ubuntu and Linux Mint. Okay, so in one line I can ask also कि when did Ubuntu came into existence? So I can give you multiple options like 2010, 2008, 2009, so 2004. So you just have to remember this. Okay, for these also. So just read one or two lines, or one or two times read those things, so that you can remember some important things from this. Okay, so Linux Mint and Ubuntu, just remember these are the two Linux distribution. These are the main two Linux distribution. Where what does Linux distribution means in order to build an Linux operating system, we need some parts. And what are those parts? These are these parts, and these parts are being developed by another organization. Who are those organization? Ubuntu, Linux Mint, these are the organization that will develop these things. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing, but once you will read this, you will be getting. So today we have seen Linux distribution, Linux distribution list, and ownership of files. आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड वेरी क्लियरली. देखो मैंने बहुत टाइम लिया है ये सब पढ़ाने के लिए. देखो मैं क्या करता हूँ, हमेशा सोचता हूँ मैं ज़्यादा ज़्यादा पढ़ाऊँगा. देखो ये परमिशन मैंने सेट करके रखा था, ये भी ख़त्म कर दूंगा मैंने सोचा था, बट होता नहीं है क्योंकि तुम लोगों को बहुत बार रिपीट करना पड़ता है. मुझे लगता है तुम लोगों को समझ में नहीं आता है, और कोई बात नहीं है. मैं चाहता हूँ समझ में नहीं आए तो यू विल आस्क मी 100 टाइम्स and I will explain 100 times, 1000 times. I don't care about कि मैंने कहाँ तक पढ़ाया है, ठीक है, मैं कितना पढ़ा रहा हूँ. I don't care about those things. I care if I am teaching only one topic, and this one topic you have to understand very carefully. Okay, and these are the things that you will be needing in future. Okay, so Linux operating system is very important for you. Okay, so I will end this. So you know the drill, you know the rules. I'll put the attendance. And Saranga, if you are new, I think you know this feedback system. You have to rate the class so that your attendance get updated in the ERP. Okay, so first thing I'll upload the notes also, and then I'll update your attendance. You just have to rate the class. Okay, enough. ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll text you once I updated the attendance. Look, wait, let me screenshot. Let me take the screenshot of here. I think everyone is 1 or 2% is missing. Seranga is new. Seranga, I think 009 his enrollment ID. Okay, okay, you can leave the class. I'll give the attendance and text you. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.